statistical, mathematical fact
never has been down.
has broken every single record. There is no asset that has come close.
It's the only thing in the industry that was not touched, that was not hacked, and it never fails doing what it promised in 2009. It's never
What's
failed.
the best performing asset the world has ever seen? And you'll find out that it's Bitcoin.
I title this talk, Does Bitcoin Add a Zero Every Epoch? Now, what I want to do is I want to show you the post where I mentioned this. Here it was. Bitcoin adds a zero every 4 years. Guys, I say when someone tells you that Bitcoin's going to zero, they're sort of right? They're right. So they couldn't be more correct, actually. Bitcoin is going to the next zero and the next and the next. It adds a zero every 4-year halving epoch, I should say, or 4-year epoch in a sense. A lot of people took issue with this. Is it, Oliver, that's impossible? How can you say that? It doesn't add a zero. It hasn't added a zero. Da, 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 da. And I said, look, it's my interpretation that it does. I actually will go out on a limb and tell you that I believe it's more than my interpretation, that it's factual, but I'll leave that up for you to decide for yourselves, okay? The first thing, before I show you something, the first thing I think we need to get settled is that there are these periods called epochs in Bitcoin's sort of life cycle, right? Every 210,000 blocks or so, right? That's an epoch, roughly 4 years, all right? We all know that we just had a halving last month and so forth and so on. But what a lot of people don't realize is that there was an epoch. The first epoch started in 2009. The first halving event occurred in 2012. So we have to get these two things straight. There is an epoch, a period, and then there's a halving. So we had the first epoch from 2009 up to the first halving. Okay? It's important to understand. And after the first halving, that first halving kicked off the second epoch. So you're in halving 1, but epoch 2. All right. And there are 33 such total epochs that accomplish Bitcoin's total issuance of just a little bit shy of 21 million Bitcoin, right? Okay. So we got that terminology right. There's the halving, then there's the period before the halving. That's called an epoch. Okay. Now, here is my theory. If you want me to not say it's factual, all right, well, here's my theory. That every epoch, right, has a zero assigned to it, as it were, okay? It's like no one's assigned it to it, but it appears as though this is what it's doing. It is saying this epoch is the $10 epoch. This epoch, the next one we add a zero, is the 100 epoch. And the next epoch is the 1000 epoch. And the next one, all right, is the 100,000 epoch. All right. So what I've realized is that Bitcoin accomplished its first epoch at $10. From that point, every epoch added a zero. So why don't I take you to the Rational Roots' very famous Bitcoin halving spiral. Let's take a look at this. I'm not in agreement with some of the things here, which I'll explain in just a moment. But I just want to show you what my, theory is. So remember that when you're looking at this, we're starting in the middle of the circle. One complete spiral is one epoch, okay? So if we were to start here on the left, if this were a clock at 9 o'clock, all right, 12 o'clock is at the top, 3 o'clock is to the right, 6 o'clock is at the bottom, 9 o'clock is at the left, right? So if we look at if we start at 9 o'clock, let's say, okay, what is missing in these numbers, these are the numbers, these are the years of the halving. So you start off with the first halving at 2012, the second halving 2016, the third, the 20th. We just had the halving in 2024, and the next halving coming up is 2028. These are halvings, but they're not epochs. There is an epoch sitting before that number 12. What I'm saying is that epoch that started in 2009 when Bitcoin came into existence, right? That epoch accomplished $10. So its first major zero before 2012, the epoch before 2012 is the $10 epoch. Now, there's an epoch sitting that starts at 12 now, the halving at 2012. During that epoch, it adds a zero and accomplishes 100. Okay? So the epoch before 12 is 10. The epoch right after 12 or starting at 12 becomes 100. That's a zero added. The epoch at 16 becomes 1,000. The epoch at 2020 becomes 10,000. The epoch at 2024 becomes 100,000. And the epoch in 2028 becomes 1 million. What I believe that most people are misunderstanding is that they are skipping the epoch before the first halving. And so that was the $10 epoch. In 2012 started the $100 epoch. And another zero, 2016 starts the 1,000 epoch. Then 2020 starts the 10,000 epoch. And 2024 now starts the 100,000 epoch. Whether you agree with me or not, I just want you to understand how I look at this. Here's another thing that people are failing to realize, that they're confusing price, what Bitcoin does, with the assigned zero of the epoch. So almost every single time, Bitcoin's an overachiever. Do you understand what I'm saying? It overachieves the number zero of that epoch by a fairly wide margin. So if its epoch is 10, it might go to 30. It might go to 28. When its epoch is 100, it might go close to 1,000, the next one. But the epoch is 100, but it might shoot past 100, 200, 300, even though the number assigned to that epoch is 100. So the 100 epoch went past 100 and almost reached 1,000. Maybe it did, I can't remember. And then the next epoch is 1,000, but it might go to almost 20,000. But it was supposed to achieve 1,000, but Bitcoin's an overperformer. It's an overachiever. It goes way past the number it's supposed to achieve. So people are confusing. Well, Oliver, how can you say that it adds a zero when last cycle it was above 10,000, right? But it overachieved the 1,000. And so when you look at the epochs this way, I believe you see it more clearly that its first epoch was $10. Its second epoch was $100, and it achieved it. Its third epoch was 1,000. It achieved it. The epoch was 1,000, but it overachieved almost 20 times that. And the 2020 epoch was 10,000. People got it confused but it had already passed 10,000 the last epoch. Yes, I know, but Bitcoin's an overachiever. And this is a beautiful thing, because in this epoch, which is 100,000, what if it overachieves 100,000 and almost gets to 1,000,000? The next epoch. It's done it almost every single time that it is overachieved. When Bitcoin was supposed to last epoch, when it was supposed to achieve 10,000, it went to 69,000. So it almost 7x'd the epoch number it was supposed to achieve. 7 times. What if it's 7 times 100 epoch, 100,000? We're in the 100,000 epoch. What if it's 7 times that? Its ability to overachieve the epoch number is a very beautiful thing. People want to point to a flaw in this, but that's not a flaw. That's something extraordinarily special about Bitcoin. It overachieves. And I've always taught all of my traders, my Bitcoiners, this, especially my traders. I've been teaching them regarding this for decades, that the majority of the world, they focus, when they're focused on markets, they focus from the top of a market. You are professionals. You're to focus from the bottom of the market. It's the bottoms of cycles that matter the most. You measure the efficacy, you measure the performance. Really, in truth, you should measure the performance, the momentum, the health of a market from its lows, not from its highs. If you start to measure markets from its highs downward, this is what throws you off. When you look at Bitcoin from all the lows, all right, the $12 low, the $650 low, those are close lows, but I may have the specific numbers a little off, but the $12 low became the $600 some odd low, became the $3,000 low, became the $16,000 low. And when you look at those lows, it's like, oh my God, if you erased all of Bitcoin's surges and just pinpointed the lows and drew a line through it, you'd say this is the most amazing freaking thing in existence. If you just connected the lows, what throws people is that they measure from the highs to the lows. They measure downward when you're supposed to measure upward. This also throws people with this concept. And I believe it's where many went wrong, looking at what I said, that, all right, if you measure from the highs, okay, I get that Bitcoin was already at 10,000, but it was in the 1,000 epoch. It just overshot it. And I'm willing to bet that this tendency for Bitcoin to overshoot its epoch number is not over. In fact, I think it has more fuel behind it, because Bitcoin has overachieved, has outperformed everything that we have ever held dear in the history of mankind. There is no asset that has reached $1 trillion in value faster. There is no technology that's being adopted faster. There is no financial asset in the history of mankind that has performed at this rate, this velocity, with this amount of violence in the history of mankind, and it did it without demand. This is freaking incredible. Bitcoin didn't have demand. It only had its supply side to work with. And I know some people say, well, Oliver, how can you say that Bitcoin never had demand? All right. How can it not have demand? How did it go up? Well, how do you call half of 1% of the world adopting it demand? If you think Bitcoin had demand, show me the demand. You can't show me a single relative of yours that has Bitcoin. I'll wait. You can't show me a single neighbor who has Bitcoin. I'll wait. You can't show me a friend that has Bitcoin or believes in Bitcoin. I'll wait. Nobody in your church, nobody in your kids' Boy Scout group, none of the guys that you go to watch your little boys play Little League baseball, none of them have it. Where was the demand? There was no demand. It only had its halvings to work with. It only had its ability every 4 years, every epoch to cut itself in half as far as the issuance is concerned. So it accomplished all of this. Number one in every single metric you can come up with or conceive with, beat the pants off of every financial asset the world has ever known, became the best performing asset class, became the fastest adopted technology without demand, only by cutting its issuance in half. Now, only now are we starting a brand new leg two for Bitcoin, a new era, if you will, the era of freaking demand. And if this is why I say anyone who buys into this stupid, I'm sorry, I can hear my mom, Oliver, stop saying that. Sorry, Mom, stupid idea that we're getting diminishing returns from here forever. Like, that's it. All right. No one had it in your life. You couldn't find anyone. There was no demand. All right. Less than half of 1% of the world have it today. And we're just starting institutional sponsorship, spot Bitcoin ETFs, pension funds, family offices, governments. Now we're going to get diminishing returns. What? Wait, maybe on your planet, that's how things work. I've been trading financial markets for 43 years. I am telling you, they don't work that way. When you bring demand, when you bring demand that wasn't there, it's not diminishing. It's the opposite of diminishing. It's the silliest thing in the world to me. Yes, but this mathematical model, I put it says law. It says law, so it must be real, right? Like, give me a freaking break. It's too early to be talking about diminishing return. Imagine saying gold has diminishing returns 15 years into its life 6,000 years ago. Imagine saying Apple had diminishing returns in 1994. That's when it was 14, 15 years old, no? 1994, diminishing returns. Or the equity market, the stock market's like almost 300 years. Imagine saying, oh, it's diminishing returns from here 15 years into its life over 285 years ago. You don't get diminishing returns in anything on planet Earth after 15 years it's going to last. Just nothing has ever worked that way. Nothing human beings have ever experienced has had diminishing returns after 15 years. Nothing. Stupid. I'm sorry. Wait, your kid, 15 years, downhill from here. 15 years old, diminishing returns. His life is over. He's going to start slowing down from there. That's ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing. Whoo! Oh my God. It's just silly to me, man. But I hope you get what I'm saying. Keep this in mind. I'll blow this up a little bit more for you. Keep this in mind. 2009 up to the first halving, boom, accomplished $10. 2012 accomplished the next zero, 100. 2016 was time to accomplish the next zero, 1,000. 2020, it was time to accomplish the next zero, 10,000. 2024, it's time for the next zero, 100,000. 2028, time for the next zero, 1 million. Now, I'm not making this up. I didn't make it up. I'm just showing you what it did, what it is. I didn't make it up. This is not from my imagination. And let's see if it continues. I don't see, in fact, I think it accelerates. Not only do I believe, now this is where my opinion comes in. Not only do I believe it continues, I believe it accelerates because we've moved into a new era for Bitcoin, a leg two, if you will. This leg two is the leg of demand, which it never had. And you can't tell me that by adding demand, adding an institutional bid that never existed for Bitcoin, a permanent institutional bid forever, that should create less. How? How is that possible? No, I'm sorry. The low theory. Yes, I've tweeted this before on a number of occasions, but I think maybe like when Bitcoin was near its bottoms and all of the bears were out in full force, I was saying, guys, just, it's the lows, stupid. It's the lows, stupid. Let me show you. This is beautiful. It's the lows, stupid. If I take this and we do all the major lows, right? We come here. We look at this one, and this one, then that one, then this one. Where's the next one going to be? Like up here? And when you just take the lows, you see that this is just a freaking amazing asset. Wait a minute. Let me just, I was doing that with a different pen. Let me do it with the right pen here. So let me just do it here. Lows, and this one, lows, 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 lows. Where's the next one? Up here? And it's just freaking crazy, right? And if you just plot those prices and just plot it or just type the numbers of the lows all the way up, and you would be like, oh my goodness, what is this rocket ship? But you will be tricked if you focus on the market the other way. That's what novices do. Professionals focus from the bottom up. Do you understand? They don't focus on the bottom down. And this is where the bears get it wrong. So a bear will say, well, yeah, Bitcoin was at 69 and it went to 15,500. Yeah, but the prior low was $650. Like, think about that. Or, one of its major was $600, then 3,000, then 16,000, then you see. So it's like you can get tricked looking from the wrong perspective. All right. And so it's the lows, stupid. As long as these lows stay intact, we're in good shape. We're in good shape. And now with demand, I don't see these lows breaking. I don't. That's not wishful thinking. If it didn't break without demand, how is it going to break with demand? Like, how does that make sense? It doesn't. Anyway, not in my world and not on the planet I live on. I don't know what planet you guys live on. All right. All right, guys. So that's all I wanted to do. Just come in and give you that that overall view of an epoch having a zero assigned to it, and every single Bitcoin epoch, it achieves it and overachieves it. Sometimes it almost does two in one, but it doesn't mean that that's, if it almost gets to another one or even achieves two, it doesn't mean that that one is gone. That one is still part of the following or upcoming epoch. Can't get fooled by this. Probably not going to be able to be around as often as I like. This is big travel time for me. Heading to Europe for 2 months. I always go to Europe for about 2 months. This is just that part of the year that I do that. So I'll still be here, but I'll be doing lives a lot less frequently, unfortunately, just on the road and stuff. But miss you guys. Don't forget, go to work. Stack harder. No matter what you believe, guys, no matter what you buy in, what theory, what model, that's not the important thing. The important thing, don't let anyone distract you from the most important thing, is that this week you have more sats, more satoshis, more Bitcoin than you had last week. Everything else is noise, people. Do you understand? You are rewarding yourself 5 years from now. Those additional satoshis 5 years from now will save your family's life. You are rewarding your family 5 years from now with a gift that no one will be able to get 5 years from now. And so you must continue to give the gift that keeps on giving every single week. Don't let anybody's nonsense, not even mine, distract you from that important thing. You make sure that you conduct your life in a way that allows you, no excuses. If you've got to change something, do it. Make whatever adjustments you have to make, change whatever you have to change, but you make sure you reward your family 5 years from now by making sure you have more sats this week than in the following week. And then you can laugh and everything else off, because after that, nothing else really matters. My name is Oliver Velez, and I am your 13%er Bitcoiner. Be safe out there, and until next time. Boom!